So I'm super excited to facilitate this conversation. Um, we've been talking all day about selling wholesale, but there's a couple of different pathways you can do that. You can do it direct to an institutional buyer, or you can work with an aggregator. And so we have two groups of people here today to talk about those two different systems and how their relationships work. And we haven't had any presentations yet today, but all these fine folks have presentations for us. So, and then we'll open it up for some questions and answers. If nobody has questions to start, I can get us started. But I'm going to have everybody kind of introduce themselves. We'll do a quick introduction just down the line, and then we can start with the two of you on your presentation, okay?
I'm Julie Knetter once again. Sorry if I offended anybody. I co-own Rock Ridge Orchard with my husband, Dan, who could not be here today.
I am Melanie Hanneman, Food Service Director for the Wisconsin Rapids Public School District.
Hi, I'm Scott Williams from Garden to Be.
I'm Andrea, food purchaser at Epic Systems.
I am Kristen. I have Blue Moon Community Farm down in Stoughton.
Okay, can you pull up Julie's? Yeah, that was it. Go back. There. Yep. There we go.
So I'm going to go through this really fast because there's 5 of us. So that's our orchard. That's our orchard right there. That's our venue. You see the venue because we had to diversify. I'll talk a little bit about diversification, not only with institutionals, but with when you're married to a farmer and you're not a farmer. Some of the different things you have to do. And so that's us. We're the largest commercial orchard in central Wisconsin with 12,001 tree. And we have 37 varieties. We planted our first trees in 2004. 2 of those boys, the littlest one is now 24 and he is deployed. I do not know where he is. And the other one is works in the trades and he's 26. We focus on a huge focus on community and education and family destination, part of the diversification. Oh, nuts. Sorry. Our farm to school journey started in 2010. Our orchard started in 2004, but it started with Colby and the AmeriCorps. We had a young man come to us and ask us if we wanted to do farm to school. That year, we did 2 schools, farm to school. When that was exhausted, I went to the Marathon County Health Department and utilized some of the services used by health educators to get my name out to schools and help with that, because all those schools have to have courses, and I knew the health department was part of that because I used to work there, and I was able to connect with the schools. And if that didn't work, I just cold called and did it myself. In the early days, early days we did very archaic apple picking. Bringing the farm to schools, we do meet the farmer with Wisconsin Rapids. We go to schools, and schools that have orchards and gardens, we help them set up their orchards and gardens and their bees and stuff like that, and also protecting them. And then every year I go to Wisconsin Rapids to meet the farmer, and that's a lot of fun. When we bring the school to the farm, we do that in the spring and we do it in the fall. And in the spring, we talk about bees, pollination, and bloom, and how to plant a tree. And then in the fall, we talk about harvesting, picking apples, how to pick an apple, and what those bees did in that orchard. Mother Nature is my business partner, and she's probably the most unstable partner I have in this thing. And again, I'm very much about black and white and predictability. My husband's very much about working with her. So historically, we were getting insurance for our orchard, which if you know anything about fruit, you have to lose your whole crop to get 25% back. And if I lose my schools once, they go back to the trucks and I never get them back. So I did a lot of research. We invested in hail netting from Australia and New Zealand, and then we got our first frost fan. That is my husband. He is teaching the children about integrated pest management. Those are the pest traps I was talking to some people about, where the pheromone is in the middle and it collects certain pests. And based on those pests, that's how we treat them. We are in partnership with DACAP on that, and they have been phenomenal at sending out pest traps to help us trap those little buggers. And then, so in turn, that we can help protect our watersheds. We are board members of EPIC, which is the Eau Plaine Watershed Program, and the Fenwood Watershed Program, because what matters to us is what we're doing to our community and those that we live nearby. Growing our markets, we expanded our service area with competitive wholesale pricing. You can see right now, in 2024, we serve 7 counties, 137 schools, 2,250 bushels, and about 52,000 children. We are up this year, a little over 3,000 bushels of apples and about 54,000 children. Yeah. Growing our market. Oh, yeah, there we go. Oh, we bought another piece of property that hadn't been farmed in 7 years. And it's in a different location because, again, Mother Nature, it's always good to be in separate places because she may hail in one area and not the other. So we bought more property. This is how the property looks now. You can see it's a high density orchard. Every tree is planted 3 feet apart. They're on trellis and they're on a trellis system, and they will be getting their hail netting and their frost fan soon. In 2023, we were also awarded the Buy Local, Buy Wisconsin grant, where we were able to get some help with cooler space and an area to wash apples, to store apples, to grade apples, to do all that stuff. And then, and this is all in conjunction to meet the area need of the schools, which would extend our farm to season school. When we first started, we didn't have any coolers. We were done when we were done. So if we were done in Halloween, we were done, right? Now, my last deliveries will be this week. And we anticipated going longer, but there's a real food shortage out there, and we donated a whole bunch of apples to the Hunger Coalition of Marathon County and the United Way. And fortunately, they needed them. You know what I mean? Like they could use them, but they called in less than 24 hours. They were out. They said that the need was greater, and I don't have enough to give them because I have to finish out my schools and Thanksgiving pies. The Great Apple Crunch. This is where apples get to really shine, and that's our largest. 1/3 of our apples go out that week for the crunch. How do we give back? We donate. We do a lot of fundraising for like football clubs. We have a huge fundraiser coming up in December for the child life specialists at Marshfield Children's. I used to be the pediatric trauma program director for Marshfield Children's, and when I couldn't do both anymore, I wanted to give back in a different way, and we are giving back. So the first year we raised like $6,000, the next year we raised like $10,000, the next year was 20, and this year I hope it's going to be double that. So we are doing a lot of, it's fun. We have new and exciting varieties. We are working with the University of Minnesota, who, if you don't know, has the best varieties of apples. So if you're looking to grow an orchard, that's probably where I get my trees from, or at least those varieties, because they are cold hardy based off of their rootstock, and their fruit is phenomenal. University of Minnesota just came out with an apple called First Kiss, and if you grow it anywhere else, you have to call it Rave. But we were the first orchard and the only orchard in the state of Wisconsin that got the license to call it First Kiss. And what makes that important? It's the first hard apple to ripen. Yeah. Oh, that's family. I didn't know that one. I forgot that one was in there. So, yeah, that's us. So, thank you.
All right, so I'm going to talk from the school side of Julie's presentation. I've been a food service director going on my 9th year, and I've done local purchasing, farm to school, all 9 years. When I stepped into my role, I haven't even told you this, I stepped into buying apples from Julie. So previously they had grant money and purchased those wooden apple baskets that she had in one of her slides. So I was told when I started my job that there are apple baskets above the cooler and freezer. You take them down and you haul them out to the farm and you purchase local apples. So I would have anyway, but I didn't have a choice. So I think spring and fall, every fall, hauled the baskets down. I drove them out to the farm, which was over an hour from my house, but I was told you had to drive the baskets out. And Julie would fill them and drop them off. Dan, her husband, would bring them on a trailer. And that was 9 years ago. And we've been purchasing local apples from her ever since. We've been purchasing local from other farms in the area. It really exploded during the local funding opportunity. I actually was fighting with farmers about who was going to pay invoices. We had some farmers that got the local funding, and I had it as a school district, and we would fight and say, I'm taking this invoice, you can have the next one, because we wanted to utilize that money that was given to us for local funding. Oh, okay, sorry. So that is when our local purchasing took off, was during that time, and we've just been doing it ever since. So yes, I'm from the Rapid School District. You can click ahead. Can't have to turn. What helps with our local purchasing is something that we have special. We have a food production coordinator. I know not every school district is lucky enough to have that, but her name is Emily. I work closely with her, and we work on procuring and purchasing local as much as we can. This year, we kind of hammered in on Meet Your Farmer. So Julie talks about coming out to the schools so kids can meet the farmer, but we put up posters. Because I sat my staff down, we've got 42 staff in our district, and I said, if we're going to spend the money to buy local and to support these farms, the kids need to know about it, the staff need to know about it. So we took time this year to update all of our posters so that kids know when we're buying from certain farms, who the farmer is, how far the farm is from our school, so they have all that information. I think that's important. Even if they can't meet them in person, which they can sometimes, they at least have a face with that product. So we have 12 schools. We use local products in our breakfast and lunch programs. Most recently, we were experiencing issues with our milk, and we're a central Wisconsin school district, and we had bad milk. Teachers and staff telling kids not to drink it because it was not sealed properly. It was the cartons. And I kind of said enough is enough. We can't be a central Wisconsin school and have bad milk that we're serving. So we reached out to a local dairy. They are 40 miles from us. And I said, can you take us on? We are a pretty big district. And they said that yes, they could. So this year we made the switch to a local milk for the kids. It's either A2 or A3 protein, which I think is great. But it comes in pouches instead of cartons. And it was a hard sell. I had teachers and staff and parents just knocking at my door about why we went to a milk pouch. And just getting the word out that this is a local product. They milk the cows, and within 48 hours, we're serving it to our students. So that dairy promised that when we milk it, we're packaging it, we're shipping it to you. I brought in the owner of the dairy to speak to the staff because I needed some people behind me to get on board with it, and that helped a lot. So connecting the producer with just the staff, I couldn't bring them in to talk to the students or the whole school. but getting people behind that local purchasing was important for us. That was a big change this year. So then I just listed the current partners that we work with, the local items that we purchase and sell. We're in central Wisconsin, so this is kind of our big ones. And then to help, you can move ahead, to help narrow down what we're going to be purchasing locally. We have a Harvest of the Month program that we lay out in the summer for the school year. And this helps Emily, the food production coordinator, and I sit down and say, okay, what local products are we going to need when? So we lay this out every summer. It changes every year. This year we have a beet brownie, which we haven't done before. And I went back and forth. Do I call it a brownie and lie to the kids, or do I call it a beet brownie? And so we decided to call it a beet brownie. We're putting it out there. So that's new this year. But yeah, those are some of the items that we're doing. And then, like Julie mentioned, we try to get farmers involved as much as possible. In my previous district, we had rainbow carrots on the salad bar. We had certain local items that the kids just weren't taking because a 5-year-old at that school had not seen a rainbow carrot. So we asked the farmer to come in, sit down with the kids, explain what it is, how you grew it, talk about your farm. So whenever we can do that, we do that. We brought Julie in this year. She's great. She goes around the cafeteria with the kids and talks about her farm and her trees. And they connect their apple that they're eating with Miss Julie here. So that's fun for us. But yeah, that's all I have.
Thanks, Julie and Melanie. We're going to transition now to hear from folks who work through an aggregator. Which one of you wants to go first? Oh, okay. Lucky you, Kristen.
Thank you. So I am talking from the producer side of things and the relationship that I have with Garden to Be as an aggregator and with Epic as an end user. I have Blue Moon Community Farm. We're down about 10 miles south of Madison in the town of Dunn. And we are a 6-acre organic diversified vegetable farm. We have 8 tunnels that we also grow in 4 seasons of the year. So a lot of what we produce is coming out of those high tunnels as well. And for the most part, we're a direct market farm. We're a CSA farm and a farmer's market direct to consumer operation. Oh yeah. Ooh, I don't know what happened with that picture. But I also started my farm in 2004, so we're 21 years in business as Blue Moon. And when I started, I was doing a little bit of everything. I was going to several farmers markets and doing our CSA, and then also trying to develop some relationships with institutions and restaurants around Madison. And maybe some of you can relate, just stretching myself very, very thin. Because we were such a small farm and growing a diversity of items, we reached a point where we just had to make a choice. And the path that we chose, 15 years ago was to the direct market side of things, where we were going to continue that diversity and sell direct to families. And we did that for quite a while. And largely that had to do with pairing our marketing with my capacity and talents. And when I look at what Scott does on the logistics side of Garden to Be, it just blows my mind because those were the things that I struggled with as a farm owner, trying to develop and maintain good relationships with buyers. And so when COVID hit and a lot of our markets were in question, and there was on the one side, a lot of question about where we were going to sell our produce. There was also a question of how people were going to eat. There were a lot of supply chain issues. There was a lot of disruption in the marketplace, as we all know. And so that was when I started working with Scott at Garden to Be. And we, over the years, have been able to develop a relationship. I don't know, one of the smallest producers. But there are a lot of us who are able to participate in a wholesale aggregation network because of the ability it has for us to be able to market certain products that we can grow at a wholesale price and be able to provide on a more or less consistent basis. We weren't going to compete on some of those larger bulk crops that we knew larger farms could do very efficiently that we could not do on our scale. So the kinds of things we developed into growing for him were like herbs and heirloom tomatoes. And we weren't growing standard cooking onions, but we were growing heirloom onions and specialty onions and things that had a little bit more of a unique market. And so that relationship has continued over the last 5-6 years. And it's a critical piece of our business at this point. It's a piece of our profitability that is that I'm so grateful for because on the one hand, I always did want to be providing food into the institutions and the restaurants in our surrounding community, but just could not pull it off on my own. And I think that, you know, someone like who's working at a large institution is not going to come to me and try to buy from me directly. It gives me access to these markets that were not accessible to me otherwise. And so, you know, Scott and I feel like Scott and Garden to Be have played a really important role in my business, and I'm looking forward to him talking about his history and how he got into this because, you know, we met 22 years ago when we were both CSA farmers, and this is where we are now. So that's just a little brief intro to myself, but I'll turn it over to who? Yes.
Okay, I don't have much of a presentation, but it's more interesting to look at slides than listen to a bunch of facts, I guess. I'm Andrea. I'm from Epic Systems. It is a software company in Verona, Wisconsin. We have about 15,000 employees. So, could go to the next one. Some of the stats, we are serving about 11,000 lunches 5 days a week. We have 7 cafeterias that we're serving food in across campus. We have 9 cafes where we're serving coffee and pastries every morning. We have 4 general stores and 170 break rooms on campus that we're keeping stocked with beverages and treats for all of our staff. And with that, we're selling everything at cost because this is considered a perk for the employees there. We also have a 40,000 square foot full production bakery on campus that is making all of our bread and rolls and everything from scratch. Like, they make the best croissants I've ever had in my life. It's a gift to have something like that at our disposal. The pictures are from Epic. This is one of the dining rooms, actually. So let's see. You can go to the next one. And this is one of the kitchens. We do have 324 people in our culinary staff. Like I said, we're making everything from scratch. We want those dried beans. And we do take food seriously there. The owner of our business is very passionate about food. We hire real chefs who are very passionate about food, and they want the freshest ingredients possible. So we are usually looking for a lot of local produce because it's the fresh is best. So for that, some of the other things we're doing, We do have a dedicated food recovery program. We have a whole team of people that just work on that, and they take all of the leftovers from our lunches and figure out how to reuse them, whether we're going to reuse them ourselves, like it's going to go on the salad bar and a quesadilla tomorrow, or it goes to donation. We work with Badger Prairie Food Network, or composting. As of this month, we now have composting in every single kitchen on campus. And it is a certain, it's a lot of people are very passionate about this at Epic, which makes it easier to do, to find the local food and to find the ways that we can reuse what we don't use. Our food waste is around 5% at this point. So as of this year, just for this year, we're on track to use over 260,000 pounds of Wisconsin produce, which is up 15% from last year. And we keep trying to find ways to add to that. But in order to get that kind of volume, we need to work with people like Scott to talk to all the farmers. So I can call Scott and say, hey, I need 3,000 local squash at the end of the month for this event we're doing called Squash Hunger, where everybody that brings in cans of food gets a squash. And then Scott can go talk to all those farmers and find me 3,000 squash for our event. And it makes our life much easier, and we can accomplish some of the things we want to do. With Wisconsin being the dairy state, we get most of our dairy from Wisconsin. We've partnered with Sassy Cow, and they provide all of our milk. It's about 1,700 gallons of milk a week on average. Cheese, of course, almost all of it is Wisconsin made. All of our ground pork is actually coming from Wisconsin meadows. We're hoping to move to ground beef next. That's one of next year's goals. But it is important to us to buy locally as part of our effort to be a good neighbor. Like being such a large corporation in a small town in Verona, we're conscious of how we are portrayed in our community, and we want to help our community as much as possible. And we like to serve good food. So that's kind of my story. I can pass this on to you.
Okay, so I'm Scott. Thanks. You can just, I don't know who's clicking through the pictures, but just click through. I didn't organize a speech around it at all. But I'm Scott Williams, and this is, we're finishing up the 26th year of Garden to Be. I started out as a farmer growing food on 5 acres, a little under 5 acres. And we had a CSA, we sold to restaurants, we were doing farmers markets, multiple farmers markets, and just going in every direction and trying to narrow in. It became apparent within a couple of years that we didn't have enough land to grow all the food that there was demand for. And so started to use produce from other farms, friends of ours that, other people we had met that were growing high quality food and able to get in products that we could offer on our list to some of our restaurant customers, some of our other customers that we either couldn't grow enough of or wanted to narrow and grow into other things. I focused a lot on restaurants for a while. And that relationship helped me meet a lot of people who ended up going to places like Epic. So in 2006, I think, was when we made our first sales and deliveries to Epic. And I think there might have only been one dock at that point. I don't remember. There might have been 2. I have invoices for Voyager maybe back that far. I don't know. Yeah, was that the second one? Okay, so. But it's grown a lot in the years, which is really great. It's really hard for those of you that are growers. you know how hard it is to manage all the things you're trying to do and make these deliveries and keep all these relationships and get to all these places and not be at the farm. You're not at this place on time. You know, I was running in every direction. We were always busy. We were struggling to find enough people to get all the work done, how to keep track of all the equipment that we would need. Often we had just one vehicle to make those deliveries. And so I just kept gradually moving in a direction where I was bringing in more of the product and being able to offer that and growing less and less of it on the farm. And yeah, we're up to, I think, a little over 40 farms that vary in size from, you know, several that are under 5 acres and several that are quite a bit larger than that. So most of the farms we work with are fairly diverse and have multiple schemes for how they, avenues for how they market their products and sell it. Some are like Kristen, who have CSA, farmers market, and a little bit of wholesale to us. Some are, you know, just farmers market and some wholesale. It can vary. And as I kept pulling back, yeah, so a lot of these aren't even from Garden to Bee. These are from farms too that I work with. That one is probably Driftless Organics out in the western part of the state. Yeah, look at all the potatoes. That's Driftless. So yeah, so the farms that I work with are from as far northeast as Door County, up in Egg Harbor, an orchard that I work with up there, across into the central part. From Athens, I saw Cattail was on your list. I work with Katrina, Stacy and Tenzin in that area too at Red Door, and then all the way to the southwestern part of the state in the Viroqua area. And so now our warehouse is in Fitchburg. It's not on the farm anymore, and I don't grow anything. This is the first year that I haven't planted a seed or grown anything or harvested anything for sale. It's weird and different, but my back likes it. So what was great is that as we continue to expand in this other direction, I found there are so many farms that want to grow a lot of the same things, smaller farms that are growing really specialty items. You know, our marketing strategy could incorporate really small restaurants and cafes. It could also incorporate up to very large customers like Epic. I see Ben is here. We did a lot of business with Second Harvest of Western Wisconsin over the past 6 years. I sell to a couple of different school districts in the area. Our range is mostly Dane County and then all the way across to the eastern part of the state and to the Milwaukee area. So we have, yeah, there's cranberries we get from Warren up north. And so that's a farm that we get one product from. That's the only thing we get from them. It's the only thing they grow. And then other farms that we get a whole wide range of stuff from. That's the back of one of our trucks. I have 5 refrigerated trucks. That's something that we weren't doing as a farm. We would have one. And so I remember talking to Josh one time as I was still growing a lot, Josh Engel from Driftless, and also aggregating and offering product from other farms. And we were lamenting the challenges of having broke down vehicles and that sort of thing. He's like, well, if you're running 3 trucks, you should have at least 4. And so that's something now that we, you know, have. We have more trucks than we need. I generally have only 4 routes running on any given day, so there's always a backup truck if we need it. This is the warehouse where we're at right now. So we're bringing in product. This looks like a product coming in and going out day, which would be like a Tuesday morning or Friday morning, which is really hectic. So it shows a lot of product coming in that's being checked in before it makes it into coolers. And then we've got guys set up on the tables that are weighing it out for breaking it down into smaller case sizes or unit sizes for customers that don't want full cases of product. And I think, yeah, I'm not going to focus on the pictures too much. You guys just look at the pictures. So the thing that was really cool then, having this group working this way, having started working with a customer like Epic, is that some of the same principles from when I was doing all the direct sales and not incorporating other farms were still very important. The relationships were still vital. I was still working with somebody at Epic or at the schools, and we had to communicate very well. So the thing that I tried to focus on was making the system as streamlined as possible, bringing in all the lists that I get. Collect the lists from every farm. I put it into one single list. I identify the source for any item, and if it's more than one source, I'll list all of them, so it could come from any number of farms. What Andrea and her team see is just one full list of products that are available from Garden to Bee, from all these different farms, that they place one order for, they get one delivery of, at each dock, but and then have one invoice to pay for all that. The money comes back to Garden to Bee. We disperse the money according to what our purchase orders were with each farm. I think it's something that we're still working out the efficiencies of, but I think that it's come a long way and has made it even possible for all the different farms that we work with to be able to work with a company like Epic, because it means that they don't have to have 42 different invoices, emails, phone calls, logins, everything like that. It's helped expand how much our business with Epic has grown quite a bit over the last 20 years, as you can imagine. Epic included, but 2024 was our biggest year, and we did almost 2 million pounds of produce in total to all our customers. So I think it's been the thing that has helped me move in the direction that I have fun with. It keeps the work that I do really enjoyable for me. I hope that what I've done has allowed farms that are interested in working in this way to continue to find more efficiencies in their operations and be as profitable as possible. And it's allowed us to get into venues and areas for sales where everybody is eating, where there's a demand for food, and we can keep that money in our area. We can keep it in the state, and provide them with the best quality product. Hopefully that they get a chance to see and use. All right. That's me. That's some of Kristen's lettuce right there. Yeah, I think. I think you want to take over, you'll do questions and stuff?
Yeah, I'll do questions. Yeah. So does anybody have any questions to kick us off? Yes.
I was just thinking about a question earlier about commitments from buyers. And so I was just wondering if you all work on a commitment or a contract or an open PO on how much local food you source Epic from Garden to Bee, or if it's kind of unknown each year, but I was just wondering that.
Yeah. I would love to have more commitments than we do, but one of the things that Epic does is they're creating their menu from month to month. So we don't necessarily know what we're going to need next year. So it does work different from a lot of large institutions that way that I know are planning out their menu for the whole year. Our system just doesn't operate like that. So we do usually Scott will send us a list and we'll look to see what's on our menu next week and how much of this can we convert to local produce instead of where we were going to get it. And that's kind of how we operate at this point.
We'll do things like, there have been times too where we've sent out a projection for a month in advance. You know, you've got, and it's not just one person making your menus, you know, recipes are coming from like quite a few of those 324 different cooks. You know, it might be their week and they're doing 5 different menus for the one dining room that they're in. So it can vary a lot from month to month when you have those. But we'll get together, maybe not every single winter, but we talk about things that jumbo carrots was one of the things that had come up, that, you know, we're growing a lot of carrots and they all tend to be in the medium or even small size, certainly compared to what you're used to. And it was discovered on our end that, you know, if we were growing more sizable carrots, that you could use them in different ways. You would be purchasing them for other areas of the kitchens. So we try to meet and go over some of those things. I'll have a good sense of if there's going to be any huge changes from their end, but it also helps to having such a diverse customer base for us then, so that I can still meet with farms and say, my projection is going to be this way, and maybe this amount of it is going to Epic, but you know, the rest of it is spread out over our other 150 customers or that sort of thing. Yeah, but we don't do contracts either. I try to be as close as I can and make commitments. I mean, I'm a small farm the size of Kristen's. Your area space is a premium, so she doesn't want to have to grow extra beds of anything that isn't going to get sold. So I try to get in there and narrow in as best I can.
So Scott, when you talk to Epic and they say jumbo carrots are a thing, what is your communication out to farmers then look like? And then do you just say, hey, somebody's interested in?
I went straight to Steve Pincus. He grows really big vegetables. And I talked to Steve and Beth and Josh Angle first. They're also the people that I was buying most of my carrots from anyways. They're people that I had, you know, Josh Angle is one of the farms I've been doing this, you know, this type of business with, for the longest. And so I put it out to those two first. They were already sort of within my priority system of who I was going to get carrots from, and I wouldn't want to take away from their sales to give it to someone else. There'll be other areas where I can find new crops or something for other growers that want involved, but yeah.
Okay. And so in terms of like contracts and that kind of thing for you all working directly together, what does that look like for you? And I see that you had like a monthly item that you were trying to feature. What does that relationship building look like for you and your projections and so on?
It's pretty simple. Probably in about July, I email all the schools and say, are you in? You want apples? And then those that get back to me say yes. And then based on their school count, like if their schools are up or down, then that's how many bushels or bins of apples they will take. For example, Abbotsford didn't take any, which is a small school near us, wasn't taking any apples since 2010. And this fall, they got a new food service director, and she said, sure. So she started out with one bin. She has a huge influx of Latino and Vietnamese children. And we are now up to 8 bins by the end of the fall. So she's learning. I can tell you that I sell way more, or I distribute way more sweet apples, because again, I have 34 varieties. And when the Honeycrisp and the other apples come out, they take more of those.
No, it's kind of that monthly looking ahead with other farms. We kind of plan out 6 to 8 months. This is what we're going to need, but no contracts or anything. I was going to add with Julie too, then we just ask when to expect it to end because her season doesn't go as long as our school year. So we have to kind of know at what point we're going to stop getting the local and then switch to our distributor.
And you kind of touched on something a little bit that we wanted to ask both groups. what are buyers doing to incorporate? Are you working with any buyers that are incorporating some culturally relevant foods for different populations across the state? What does that look like right now?
Well, I mean, at Epic, you've got so many different dining rooms, some of them are specifically themed, so Chopsticks is already one that might, be one of the dining rooms that's going to be more interested in getting tatsoi, bok choy, any of the Asian greens. You've got several different ones. So usually it's based on, your dock locations will be set up for certain dining rooms, and then you'll order accordingly.
Yeah, so we do have the 7 cafeterias, and they all have their own theme. So yes, Chopsticks is more Southeast Asian. We actually have 2 of those on campus now because it's just insanely popular. So we are looking for some of those ingredients sometimes, but it's hard to get our chefs to commit to it at a certain level. They want it, but they just want it to be available. So I'm trying to convince them that that's not how it works. You need to say you're going to buy this, and then someone will grow it for you. So I'm working on it.
First off, I just want to say thank you to all of you for being up there. Scott is someone we work with at our farm, and I think what he is providing has not only been really amazing, but incredibly important. And so just want to say thank you to that. I'm just curious on the Epic side, we've been farming for 15 years, and Epic has been like this like golden like someday, and Scott's really opened that door for us. And you had mentioned that the goal is to do more, and this year you did more than last year. And is that a concerted effort from the top down, or is it more kind of a hope that just internally you're trying to make happen, or is there like percentage goals that you're shooting for as an organization to say like we want local food to be this percentage of total buy, or how is that being orchestrated on that big of a scale?
There are not specific goals for that. It is more we want to support the local community as possible, so we try to find ways to make that happen as much as we can. So we just try to increase it so much every year. I know since I started keeping track when I started 4 years ago, we have increased it by 40%. So we're doing okay.
You touch a little bit about cultural relevant food. Well, before that, I'm always amazed at how Scott is able to put all that list together. Really, really. I read it, even though it's Paulina who buys, I read the whole list all the time. I say, wow. So thank you. But my question is, are there any products or mm, um, products that are already value added products or meat or things like that that you are difficult to come by that you're looking for? And then we have some farmers here that probably can hear some ideas.
See, for specific things that can be grown or things, because I know, trying to think of what we might have a hard time getting. We do use just a lot of things that are locally available, but I think about long beans, we have a hard time getting. They would like to serve a lot more long beans than we get. But I don't know how easy that kind of thing is to grow in Wisconsin. So.
I keep, yeah. I keep a running list too of things, so when farms reach out to me, or when there are farms that they're like, we would like to increase what, the business we're doing with you, then I have I have products that I just keep running, and it might not be specific for Epic, it might be for other people too, but I'm like, this would be something that I know we never have enough of, or we only have one other grower that does this. And so when they are short, or when they hit some roadblocks, speed bump in the season, and we don't have it on our list, then I would like to find backup growers for products. So I have a pretty good list, but that would be something to reach out to me. And yeah, we'll talk. Yeah. Yeah. And so we can find those things. Yeah.
Melanie, and maybe other people have answers, but I'm wondering about like, has the school district's food service staff changed practices or like increased funding, or what changes were made or would need to be made for more local purchasing?
I'm also wondering about the posters. Are those in your cafeteria?
The Meet the Farmer posters? Yeah. Yep. So we hang them up. I don't know if you've seen them. Julie's face is all over them. Yeah. So we put those in the cafeteria. We use the Harvest of the Month materials from the UW to focus in on the items that we're serving. Budget-wise, we had extra money from COVID. So we have a fund balance. So that is helping us right now kind of justify those local purchases. I really, I value those. With our staff meeting this year, I kind of sat them down and I said, we can ship in blueberries from our distributor, but the fact that we're shipping food from miles away when we could be getting local blueberries was one this year. I had 2 farms, Highland Valley and Bayfield, and then we have a farm in Stevens Point, Chet's Blueberries, and they both reached out and said we have local blueberries. And I could have said yes to one and no to the other, but we said yes to both to decrease the amount we're bringing in from our distributor. So we're paying a little bit more for those blueberries, but it's worth it to us. And I try to get the staff to see that too. The nutritional value of these blueberries that we're getting locally far exceeds what we're getting shipped in from our distributor. And we're feeding kids, we're feeding 5, 6, 7-year-olds. And that nutritional quality is important to us. And so I try to get everybody on board with that. Yes, we're spending a little bit more, and if we're going to spend more, we need to get them to eat it. So I don't just want the blueberries to go in the garbage too. So we work on parfaits and things that they're going to eat those. But DPI is here, and we have requirements. So we have to serve fruits and vegetables in schools, but they don't require that it has to be local or it has to be the most nutrient dense form of that fruit or vegetable. But it's important to us. And my school board is behind it too. So when we make these local purchases, I was telling Julie, even though we're buying from multiple farms, when we could be buying from one big distributor, they don't question me on it. They kind of let me do my thing because when we're purchasing, that's important to us.
Has there been, any equipment changes that have needed to take place in the cafeterias of the schools to be able to facilitate this kind of local purchasing?
Yes and no. They did, before I came, purchase a commercial like slicer chopper, and it sits in the corner and we don't use it. We have the labor, we have the other equipment to do what we need to do with the fruits and vegetables that we get in currently. I think if we expanded more, maybe that chopper would come out, but we have the staffing right now to work with those. We have salad bars at all of our schools too. And I was telling Julie, talking with other school districts in my area, we're part of a co-op. We're one of the few districts that from kindergarten through high school, every student has access to a full salad bar. So we have the capacity to get it out on the salad bar, so we bring it in and serve it.
Thanks. I have a question for Scott and Garden to Be. I was just wondering what your demand is, like if you have more demand than you can meet as far as from people that entities that you supply to, and then also more demand from growers who would like to aggregate through you, is one question. And then also just like, I know you said you've been kind of scaling up every year. Is that something that if there is more demand than you are able to do right now, is it something that you're going to be continually scaling up for?
Yeah, it definitely fluctuates a little bit. And, supply is one of the things that will fluctuate the most, really. Demand does seem to continue to go up, and not always in the same places. But it's also I don't have as much historical data on this either, because for probably 3 years, restaurants were just, you can't use any of the data from 2020 to 2023 really for restaurants because it just doesn't count. And then from some of the institutions, even Epic's purchasing during that time was so different because you weren't feeding employees who were at work. You were making meals to distribute at your customers, like at clinics and stuff. I mean, it was so totally different. So we've grown so much in the last 6 years that that's a little weird. But when I look now at what, let's say, what Epic is purchasing over the last 2 years, each of those 2 years are significantly higher than they were in 2019. And it had been growing up to that point. And restaurants are quite a bit up now from where they were in 2019 as well. But the interesting thing is that, so any of the growers that I have who are growing, let's say like any of the cucurbits, everybody's going to have the same bumper crop in the same year, So it'll be tricky to fill out some of the to be able to use all the supply. That's where I still get some of that mid-season rush. Like I'm still growing, I'll still feel that much intensity about like, oh my God, we have to sell a lot more cucumbers than we ever have before, or whatever it is. But it's also tricky. So when I'm talking to other growers that want to work through us, and I have to find what they're already doing. If you're already growing things, you've already established some systems that are working for you, or you're trying to narrow in on the ones that you like. Like it has to be a system that works for you too. So it won't be a lot of help if what I need is a lot more potatoes, but you don't have potato diggers and barrel washers and the stuff to do large volumes, because potatoes aren't something you can do by hand and do at a rate that Epic can buy a lot of. And so I have to get those from bigger farmers that can already do it at a closer to, price conscious area. So I look for other areas where I can bring in new farmers, and then we continue to find ways that we can fit them in and add other products that way.
Just took my question, but I'll follow up with it. Hey guys, over here. Are there specific products, especially or types of products, right? Whether they're shelf stable, maybe minimally processed, available in the winter season, what are products that we couldn't grow enough of to meet that demand? And then maybe also for the farmers, and I suppose for the buyers as well, what are policies that you've seen or would like to see in our community to help either increase your ability to produce more food, or as a buyer to purchase more local food? Maybe Kristen, do you want to go on the production end?
There are a few different questions there. I'm not sure this directly answers your question, but something I was thinking about when others were speaking that I think is really important to understanding what Scott's model has evolved to be is in relation to his producers, is that he could very easily set up a system where he has large farms that can supply all of his sweet potato needs for the entire winter, and he would never need the 600 pounds I could offer you. But the human interaction that you have with your management of growers is such that you are selling products from small growers, knowing that you're going to have a lot more supply to move from the larger suppliers. And so there's sort of a values-driven model there that I think is unique. I don't know. It sounds like you're doing a lot of the same things on the school district level. It's the thing that allows someone like me to sell into the supply chain that's supplying Epic, because I am in a pool with growers like Driftless Organics and Crossroads and these other large farms who probably could meet the needs of the aggregator on their own, but Scott deliberately makes space in the scheme for what piece of that supply smaller growers like me can can put in there. And then when I'm sold out, he can go to another supplier, or, when the smaller growers have sold what they needed to, he can go back to those larger growers to fill out his needs. So I guess what I'm thinking about is that one of the pieces in the larger scheme is making space in those aggregator relationships for small growers to have a foot in. And it's not that we have, as we've already said, a contract or a relationship of what I'm going to sell, but it's just sort of the way you've done business from the start. Yeah. So I don't think that actually does answer your question, but that's something that I was thinking about.
I can tackle the policy side. Brittany at DPI is going to know a lot more with the farm to school funding, but I've seen other states, school districts, we desperately need more funding for our school meals. And I've seen where other states, I think it's tied to the higher reimbursement, but a certain percentage then must be bought from local foods in that state or area. So I haven't heard anything from Wisconsin or whether that's even an option or coming down the line, but other states have made it where you get more reimbursement, but a certain percentage needs to be local, and things like that would help other districts purchase more.
Where do we need to advocate for that? Is that something that we advocate to our state leaders, or is that something that we advocate towards our federal leaders? What does that look like?
I don't know, and I just opened a can of worms.
It's great. It's great. You've got groups like this already. You've got REAP and already understand like these channels. And one of our huge challenges is that, we're all in the thick of what we're doing. Kristen doesn't have time to sit in on, county meetings, city council meetings. So having people from DATCAP, having people from REAP, having people who understand the policy, know the people who are making decisions, and understand how budgets are being created, and then can fit those things in. The mandates to spend the money locally is essential. That's one of the things that worked so well with Second Harvest. Our relationship worked so well is because they got the money. They know what they need to use it on. They know the things that they want in there. Nobody was telling them that it all had to be carrots or it all had to be this or that, but it did have to be, they had to spend it locally, or a percentage of it had to be done locally. And so then they could find, in our case, it was they found me, and I was able to make sure that the food they were getting from me was grown in Wisconsin, or was grown in Dane County, or was grown from women farmers, or whatever any of the parameters are that you need it. But creating the mandates within the funding so that how it gets spent is really essential.
So speaking of funding, I guess, Scott, this is for you. How do you make your money? Like, what's the margin as for someone who's interested in the aggregating part of it?
It's real.
Where does the profit come in, and is it profitable? Is it grants? How do you?
So we still do it on this is a real, I just last year got the first grant Garden to Be has done in over 20 years. The one previous, I think we hand wrote on a couple of sheets of paper and sent to Rick Bayless, and we got a few $1,000s to buy a furnace for our greenhouse. That's my experience with grants until this one last year. But I am trying to run it like a business in a sustainable way that is going to be profitable and pays farmers equitably. So we still have a really narrow window of when we get things, like when we get our orders and when we deliver. So I am emphasizing the quality, the freshness, the direct relationship from the source to the end user. I don't do a whole lot of inventorying, so I think in my model, I think it allows me to keep my risk a lot lower. I'm not holding a lot of product that may go bad and then we have to toss or we have to take a huge discount on. So if I'm ordering product from Kristen, I'm sending her the order on Sunday night, it's getting to me by 9 a.m. Tuesday morning, and it's getting to the customer on Tuesday, or in Epic's case on Wednesday, or the same window through till Friday. So we have a very narrow window. It's really hectic. It's a lot of work, and it keeps our margins as small as possible. So some of the things, our margins are just 10%. And that's usually an item like something like what Tracy does. If I'm getting in, a 5-pound bag of minimally processed, chopped dry coleslaw, we're not repacking it. We're not doing anything. We're opening the box. We're looking to see that it's what we're supposed to get, that it's fresh, that the quality is good, and then it's going to the customer. It requires the least amount of handling on our part as possible. If it's products that we have to break down, Tommy's is like this too, the microgreens. They come in, they go out. So our margins, we try to keep as low as possible that way. Where we have to increase is when we have more labor or time put into it. Or then the other one is the distance from the warehouse. So our Milwaukee routes have a different price list than our Madison customers, because it's just a lot less fuel and time.
So like if you were to order like from, like the sweet potatoes, so you get a truck full of sweet potatoes, you're going to charge more for those if you have to break them down to send to different.
Yeah, so my per pound price is going to be higher per pound than if they bought the full 40-pound cases that they came in. And that wouldn't be one that I'm buying in whole truckloads, because I don't want to sit on it too long. I know I've only got 3 coolers. We have about 6,500 square foot of warehouse. So I'm not, when I am getting in full truckloads, it's going, the bulk of it is going out the next day, within 1 or 2 days, to somewhere like Epic, to Second Harvest, or to, a whole bunch of other smaller customers.
Yep.
Mentioned cash flow as well.
Yeah, so all my customers are on 30-day terms. And so I expect to be paid within 30 days of them receiving the product. A lot of customers will I'll get a check every week, and it'll be for however many deliveries we've made in the week, So everybody's a little different. You got to keep track on it. And then I'm on the same thing. I pay farmers in the first week of the next month. So if whatever I order, from Vitruvian or Blue Moon in October, we're processing all those purchase orders and their invoices, and we're sending the checks out by the end of that week if Ann and I are on top of things. Sorry if I'm late, but it's usually,
But
the
that's a key
first week of
part
the
of
next
any
month.
business,
So
right? Is getting this is on. That's the key part of any business that we all have to think about is we really want to sell to this customer, but how do they pay their bills? And some grocery stores are very slow. And so maybe you shouldn't be doing business with them, right? You need to prioritize your customers as to their ability to pay, not just because you like them. It's a thing sometimes some people don't remember that cash flow.
It's another part of the system that working with an aggregator maybe works for some farms. That's just a part of it that I take on then, and hopefully then I think hopefully what you've heard is that we can be relied on, that we're going to pay on time. So they know they're getting paid. They're getting one check, and all their stuff is getting paid for, and they have a contact on our end to manage any discrepancies or whatever. It's on us now at Garden to Be. My team has to pay attention, and we have to make sure that we're getting paid on time. It's really hard when you're running a farm and you've got to be 6 different managers. You're in production, you're in marketing and research, you're in like every part of it. And so that's one of the things that working with an aggregator, it takes that off of your plate as a producer. If you find the relationship with somebody that you can work with and trust, and that's only it's only one angle where you're getting paid from, and when to expect that check.
Okay, we have time probably for one more question for this panel. Anyone? Wow.
Hi, my question would be for Kristen. And it would be, Kristen, for when people are buying through Scott, do you care who the customer is? And are you curious to know where your product is going to after it goes through Scott?
I never
Well-
tell them.
That's right. No, that is one of the things, I feel like this question came up in the Food Hub conversation earlier. And one of the things that is really interesting about the way Scott runs it is, you know, my box label is on that box when it goes to the customer. They know, even if they just ordered, you know, tomatoes and they didn't specify who they were coming from, they knew who they came from. And so there's that transparency there. I don't always know where our things end up, but it's really fun to show up at a restaurant and see your name on the menu because they knew where those things came from, even though we had, you know, even though we had Scott brokering those relationships. So that, I mean, I feel like that's kind of the best case scenario of having this, I don't know, a trust relationship between, you know, producer and end user that is being almost completely managed by someone else. So, yeah.
So we've been working at this for about a year and a half, but soon we'll have an online ordering system, but it's going to be a full flow through portal where all the farms that I work with are going to be able to log in and see where, you know, who, if you wanted to, at any point you could look and see where your stuff was going to. Customers will be able to log in and see how much of it came from this farm, that farm. Yeah, we're getting closer to that. Yeah. I'll usually get phone calls when people want to go out or take their staff out to dinner, and then they'll be like, who should we go to this year? You know, so then I can help them figure out who has been buying a lot. Thanks, Beth.